Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the But First She Failed podcast. I am so excited that you are here, and we are halfway through Hispanic Heritage Month. So I thought it would be really fitting before the Hispanic Heritage Month is over to bring in a Latina that's doing really big and exciting things. And so I'm super excited for today's episode. But before we get into today's episode, I want to take a minute to invite you to this upcoming month's accountability community call. It's taking place in a few weeks, and I really hope you'll join us. If you feel like you're meant to do more than the current job that you're in, and it's feeling unfulfilling, or you just have this burning desire to do something else, a side hustle, there's something that really you know that you want to do, but maybe you don't have the confidence, maybe you don't know what the next steps are, or maybe you just don't have an encouraging community of like-minded women that are going to be cheering you on and helping you get through this, then please do not hesitate to go to the show notes and sign up for the call, because it's going to be a really great time. Again, it's a 1 hour completely free Zoom call. I hope you'll be on the call. This is the second time we're doing it, and I hope you will not miss. Now, let's get back to today's episode. Jacqueline Basulto is an award-winning self-made Latina entrepreneur who serves as the founder and CEO and the director of new business for SeedX Inc. Founded in 2016 with just $200, SeedX has grown into results-driven data and digital growth agency that has generated over 1 billion in revenue. Yes, that's true. 1 billion in revenue for clients through data-driven online strategies and innovative solutions. With over 8 years of industry experience, Jacqueline has built a reputation for delivering tangible outcomes and creating lasting value for her clients. Across diverse sectors, she balances her role as a business leader with being a mother of a 2-year-old daughter, which we talked a little bit about during the episode. And she maintains a strong commitment to empowering businesses in the digital age, which I think is so crucial. Jacqueline has also appeared on Forbes 30 Under 30 and so many more things. In this interview, she shares how to find great talent for your team in unexpected places, even when you're in the beginning stages of starting your business. She also shares how motherhood makes you sharper when it comes to entrepreneurship and the secret weapon of revenue synergy. This and so much more. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I want to ask you the question, the icebreaker question I ask everyone. It's, what did you fail at this week?
Yes, I'm so happy to be here too. Thank you for the question. I
Yeah.
actually had to prepare this one because I didn't want it to be anything too dark. I fail constantly, I feel like, but I was just thinking about it, and I've been listening to Bad Bunny because he just got chosen to perform for the Super Bowl, and I feel like it's a failure that I'm half Puerto Rican, half Cuban. And I
Nice.
feel, like, sad that I didn't try harder to go see his residency in Puerto Rico, because I
Yeah.
actually feel like it was such a defining moment for Latin culture, for music, for Puerto Rico, and for some reason, like, it was not on my radar early enough to plan for it.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I failed a little bit in that. I wish I was there.
Okay. It's so funny that you say that, because me and my husband and our children, we actually went to Puerto Rico last month. And when we were on the plane, when we were getting on the plane with our toddler and our preschooler, everyone was like, "Oh, are you going for the Bad Bunny concert? Are you going to go for the Bad Bunny concert?" And it was such a, like, I feel like I vicariously got it because we were in Puerto Rico at the same time as the residency. But no, we went to go visit my husband's cousin that lives there with her family. And then we stayed at a resort. But I feel like going there, and then while we were there, we listened to a lot of Bad Bunny because, of course, I knew a lot of people that had actually gone as adults only, adults only trip to
Mhm.
Puerto Rico and experience that. So I got to watch it via my phone from a resort or from being in Puerto Rico, but not quite the
You
experience,
got
'cause
the
it
atmosphere.
looked really cool.
Cool.
So it was like really blown away by the experience that it must have been. So how cool. I love it. I grew up in Chicago with a lot of Puerto Ricans. So Chicago, we have a whole neighborhood that's dedicated to, La Isla del Encanto, and it's called Paseo Boricua. So I'm Colombian and Peruvian, but I love that. It's so
I
cool.
didn't know that, that's really cool. And you
Yeah.
live in my I'm originally from New York, but half of my family lives in Miami because I'm half Cuban, so, of course, I I'm familiar with Miami. It feels like a second home for me.
That's so cool. Yeah, I feel like I don't know any Cuban Americans that do not have family in Miami, so that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, Jacqueline, in your own words, could you please let the listeners know a little bit more about your company, about what you do, all of it? We want to hear it.
Yeah, sure. So I am an entrepreneur, business owner. I started SeedX with, myself and then a co founder joined me. But I started it in 2017, really young and naive age where I thought I can do this, no big deal. It's going to happen overnight, basically. And I've been I've been chugging away at it until you know, up until now, I'm still working on building out the company. We're a team of about 65 now, and we focus on uh, business growth solutions and data solutions. So basically, looking at all of the different aspects that uh, that you need to think about to work towards business growth. So a lot of that typically involves marketing, which is the easiest thing to kind of know us for. So social media ads, email marketing, CRM, website, all of that stuff. But we also look at data, making sure people have really great data uh, about their customers and about their industry. And then the last thing is the actual business metrics. So, what are the finances of the business like? Who's on the team? What talent gaps do people have? And so we partner with people to help with those three pieces in mind create sustainable growth solutions.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool. So it feels very all encompassing. That's literally like almost all the things that you need to scale a business. Can you talk to us about how did you get into this? Like, I want to hear all the things.
So it is kind of not a linear path. I think that's what's so hard. It's so hard to like recreate what the world gives to you. So I actually studied political science in college. I was planning to probably go to law school, just trying to figure out, what
Yeah.
that meant for me. And I one day was applying to summer internships. As you probably know, it just feels like you're applying to a bunch of black holes. And I applied to Google and surprisingly got a response. And I had a summer internship there where I was placed on a team that it was kind of a unique team that helped minority owned and women owned businesses with growth problems, essentially. So I kind of was exposed to digital marketing, to the fact that like I liked working with smaller businesses and people who were trying to create something from nothing. I didn't even really know what entrepreneurship was before then. So when I kind of got that experience, it just opened up this whole world of the internet and business to me. And I actually never really had a full-time job. So at the end of my senior year, I either had the option to do like the full-time role at Google, which would have been a rotational role to like do three different jobs basically and learn, which is probably a great thing for young people. But I decided, which I was kind of alluding to as a crazy 22-year-old, like, I'm just going to do this by myself. I really love doing this. I don't I'm just going to stay in New York and not move to San Francisco and try to do this myself. So
Wow, that's incredible. And how did you get the confidence to do that? I guess like do you have a lot of entrepreneurs in your family? Was that just like something that was very common and mainstream, like very normal for you or
my parents think like for the first 4 years of me starting SeedX, were constantly trying to convince me to go back to law school to or like
yeah,
go to law school to do something traditional because it wasn't something that my family understood how that happens, right? I think a lot of us see established businesses, but we never see all of the steps that bring someone to that.
yeah.
So it was really scary for my family. My friends thought I was crazy for not taking a job at Google because it is like one of these like once in a lifetime, are they ever going to look at you again things. If you take it, you're kind of set with all the benefits and stuff that they have. And in terms of myself, I didn't really know anything about entrepreneurship. I went to I went to Columbia, which I was really fortunate to go there, and there were entrepreneur clubs, but it was mostly like I thought nerdy in a good way because I'm a nerd, but like
Yeah.
nerdy guys that I didn't understand.
Mhm.
What I mean? Like developers and stuff where I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about. So I don't even think I knew what I was doing until I, I started doing it.
Yeah. That's really cool, though. I love that. I think like, some people just, like, kind of, like, fall into it or kinda roll into it and just go for it, and I love that, and there's other people that are very calculated and spend years before they actually take the leap, and I think that that's so cool that your story is different, that you were like, "I'm gonna do this." Like, that's gotta take a lot of confidence and, like, boldness to do that, even especially if you don't see it in your family. I think it's
Mhm.
easier when it's, like, you see it in your family, like, your parents are entrepreneurs and your grandparents are entrepreneurs and all that. And but I love that you also speak on the role of confidence when it comes to building diverse and high performing teams. Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like, what does that look like? How is that helpful? Tell me all the things. I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the way that I learned to hire people is really entwined with this story that I'm telling, which is like I had no money. Like, I think, like, sometimes people think, like, I worked at Google and then maybe, like, I started a company after that because Google's always put into my story, but I was an intern at Google.
Yeah.
I had never had a job, and I was, like, broke first generation
Yeah.
college student. So for me to get help eventually when I started needing additional support, and when we started getting more work, I really needed to be scrappy and think about like what is the best value talent that I can find, right? And so, kind of out of necessity, and then we became really good at finding good talent. And so, I think like I always tell people to look for really great talent in unexpected places. Like, for example, it's really hard to hire a low cost digital strategist because it's a super like highly skilled position. You're competing with Google and other tech companies. So we the first few project strategists that we hired were former teachers, people who were trying to transition out of a career that they were unhappy with. And so they're willing to make this value trade, which is like, I know I'm not taking the market rate because you're going to spend time teaching me and developing me. But on the flip side, they have these amazing skill sets already. Like teachers work so hard.
Mhm.
Teachers are really great at explaining things.
Yeah.
So they're really great at explaining and taking care of clients and teaching the client about Facebook ads or whatever we're doing. And so I think like finding those complementary skill sets and putting time into developing people is really great. And then from the beginning, just because of the circumstances, and now after COVID, we've always pretty much hired remote. And so the world is a global workforce and we believe in hiring like whoever's the best wherever they are. So that
Yeah.
really helped at the beginning because of budget. But now, even now, like I love hiring people who are just good people no matter where they are.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great I think a lot of times maybe listeners can be listening and they're in the process of wanting to transition out of whatever they've been doing, but I think you go to college and your program, like, this is what I studied, this is what I have to stay in, like, my skill set.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like, if you've been in the corporate structure so many years, you get really stuck. Like, you feel like, how do I translate my skill
Yeah.
set outside of this specific role, outside of this industry? I know I struggled with that a lot when I was in national news. Like, how do I take the skill set and transition it and use it for something else? And the reality is, if you take a step back, like it's really a lot of it is like, for example, project management. A lot of it can be, like you just said, teaching. People that are teachers are great at what you just said, right? They're great at explaining things. They're great at taking care of people and just really making sure and they really care about the person understanding that, which that's not something that can be easily taught, right? So I think that's really cool, that a really cool concept, right? That if you are in the process of transitioning out of a job that you've been in our industry, there's hope, right? You can take that and, take a job, maybe it pays a little bit less, but you'll learn a lot more and then be able to take that skill set with you. So I think that's really a really cool takeaway. I love that. And, I know that we were talking a little bit about, you're also a mom to a toddler. We were talking a little bit before we hopped on this call about how the struggles of the mornings with toddlers and how that can be just so difficult. But you're also, have a thriving agency. But how has motherhood reshaped the way you approach leadership, executive leadership?
Yeah. First of all, I think like you become a lot more compassionate and empathetic for other parents and
Yeah.
for people in general because we're all just, I think, like, with hard mornings and hard nights and getting sick all the time with your kids, you realize like you're never if you're 100% one day, that's a rare day. Like
Yeah.
most are going to be difficult or something's going to go wrong. And so I think I've learned a lot of patience with myself and other people that like not every day doesn't have to be perfect. It's like the effort that you put in overall. Right. So, and like not expecting, I used to beat myself up like, oh, this morning was rough. So now the whole day has to suck. And I think I've really learned like, it's always going to be hard. That's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a maturity thing. Then the other thing I think that's really important is people always tell you and told me when I first started being an entrepreneur, guard your time, make sure you only do the most high value things. And that's easy to say and try to do. But when you have a kid and you realize like the trade off between doing an extra meeting you don't need to do and spending an hour with them that day,
Yeah.
it's so valuable to spend the
Right.
extra hour that I think like now I'm much more sensitive. Like, no, this is my time. This is my schedule. I used to, I still think I'm a giving person, but I used to give my time like to clients endlessly, just have them run me over, right?
Yeah.
I martyr myself. And now that I'm a mom, I think like having that external reminder of how valuable your time is really important. And it's something that everyone should think about.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And what's really cool is your agency has just brought so much value. These numbers are super impressive. My understanding is that through your marketing expertise, you've helped clients from like a bunch of different industries do a lot of scaling, including going from 100K to 10 million in revenue. That's super, super impressive. Wow. We have online businesses, and I know how much of a push and how big of a difference it is to go from like that to, as you scale, how difficult that can be and how many things have to be implemented in order to get to those, those markers. So I think that that's so cool. But could you, talk to us a little bit about that, because you talk about revenue synergy as a secret weapon, where you align sales and marketing and exponential growth with customer experience. Could you please walk us through what is that? What is revenue synergy?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Thank you. I think that's like the most exciting projects that we worked on. Sometimes people will ask like, have you worked on like a project with a huge company? And that can be exciting, but it's more exciting when you've seen a team go from like 3 people to 30 people and you've been a part of that. And the truth is that and the reason I call us like a business growth or business solutions company is because we are a marketing agency, but everything gets thrown under marketing. Like you're a marketer and now all of a sudden you're responsible for the sales team, you're responsible for how the customers feel about the product. Like, so in order to really grow, to really create like a synergistic system across a business, I believe your partner, especially if you're still in your growth stages, if you're like $1 billion company, it might be different. But if you're in your growth stages, your partner needs to understand, like I was saying, who's your team? What is your team good at? Like, what do you need to support the team in
Mm,
terms of talent or resources, education, whatever it is? Is the product good enough? Like, do people come back and buy this product again? are you creating like a customer experience that creates more value over time? Because if we are always trying to acquire a new customer, then how are you supposed to grow long term, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we get into like people actually selling and closing deals or marketing, depending on whether you're e-commerce or you have a sales team. And so when we're solving problems of growth for people, usually they're very complex and those relationships evolve. So, like, for example, I think the example that you're talking about is our client Bees and Trees, which is a Manuka honey company. And their needs change over time. So, like, when we first started working together, we just redid their website and started running Facebook ads for them. They had never run ads before. And then, a year later, their needs change to like, now we need to expand to different channels and we need content creation. We need new technology because, there's more, um, there's more like, there's more pressure on the technology.
Yeah.
So it's really us just keeping pace and understanding where the client is, what they need now, and being reactive to that.
I love that. I love that. I think that that's so needed, right? To be able to kind of forecast and say, okay, this is what's needed now. Okay, we hit this number, but now this is the new thing you need to implement, right? Because it can be very overwhelming as a business owner, especially when you don't have a lot of background in marketing and you don't really have a deep understanding of this. 'Cause it takes a long time to really get into understand it and also to stay relevant with marketing, right? So it's like a full-time job. So I think that that's really so essential and so needed for a business owner to be like, hey, this is what we're doing, but what else is there, right? And then you guys can come in and can add value there and kind of lead the charge there. I think that's really cool. One thing that I think is really cool also is that you were listed as Forbes 30 under 30 in 2021. And you have a lot of accolades. Really impressive how your agency, how you bootstrap this thing and how it's just blown up and how much you're adding value to all these different businesses and different industries. But was there ever a season in your life where maybe you feel like you had failed? And if so, what did you learn from that season?
Sure. I mean, I think I always feel like you have a lot of ups and downs as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, even if you have a great, like, I feel like I have a great business now, but there are still challenges that I'm trying to overcome constantly. And we're still completely self funded. So there are always financial
Mhm.
decisions and mistakes being made and things like that. So I think failure is just part of my life. But, uh, I mean, I think that when I made a decision to become an entrepreneur, that was really hard for me. I like went into depression over it because I think it was me choosing at the end of college. I had always done like exactly what I was supposed to do. I was a great student in high school. I got into Columbia. To my family, that was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm set forever." And then I made the conscious decision to make myself happy, to do like a traditional, like, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become whatever, like, people feel comfortable with. And so, like, that was a very hard drop for me, and I wasn't overnight successful with SeedX, so it was like constant like, "Oh, maybe I'm gonna make $200 this month from a
Yeah.
project," right?
Yeah.
And I don't know when the next project is coming. So that period of time after kind of leaving the structure that I always had of being a good student and the right path and all of this stuff to like going off course and creating my own path and constantly facing failure and being young and being a woman and having people like laugh at me for trying to do this. That was probably one of the hardest times was just to stick in it.
Yeah.
And even now, like I am trying to right now my problem is I'm trying to build our sales team out and it's been hard for me to figure out. I'm the only salesperson on our team for the last like 8 years
Yeah.
and I feel like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this. I should just give up." sometimes. So I think that feeling, of course, now at least I have a salary and an established business. Before I
Yeah.
had nothing, but you feel that just always.
Yeah. Man, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that so often, so many of us, I can attest because I had the same experience of like, you go to school, you're told, go to school, get good grades, and then get good grades, and then you go to good college, and then you go to good college, and then you get into whatever industry, whatever coveted company. And it's challenging when it's like, what's next, right? When you get to adulthood, I mean, I did go into corporate world, into work in national news and for a big company, for Univision and all that, but it's still, even so, it's like, okay, well, what's next, right? Like, you're always told exactly what to do, and when you wanna be an entrepreneur, you are not told what to do. It's like, you have to figure it out. You have to learn all these things and fall and get up and all the things, but I think that that's really powerful because I think so many people were taught, like, you can either go this route where you're making everyone else happy and doing everything the way that everyone feels happy, bragging about, like, my daughter is,
Yeah.
when she is working for Google, to give an example, or, oh, it's like really easy to do that, but then at the end of the day, like, are you actually happy? Do you feel fulfilled with what you're doing and all that? And I think that's so powerful, and I think your story is really encouraging because even though it was tricky and hard in the very beginning, you stuck through, and now you're able to do this thing where like 100K to 10 million in revenue is huge. The value that you are adding, as an entrepreneur with your business to other businesses. And so I think that that's really powerful. I think yeah, that's real. I'm just saying that I can totally relate with that. Like, the whole, like, you do this step, this step, this step,
Yeah.
but so often it just reminds me of that term, the golden handcuffs. Have you heard that term? Yeah. Yeah, it's like sometimes you're working for these big companies and they have you get 2 weeks vacation or whatever, but you really end up feeling somewhat handcuffed to these companies, and I've felt that as well. So I think that's really powerful. Thanks for sharing the realness behind entrepreneurship. I love that. Oh my gosh, and, you talk about attracting top talent, and I love how you said you look for it in maybe the most, like, not obvious places. But what advice do you have for listeners that are looking to attract great talent on their teams, but maybe they're just starting off? Maybe, they can't offer amazing benefits. Like you said, for like a corporate company these big corporations can offer these amazing benefits, but how do you still attract top talent that will want to invest and be part of what you're growing?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is like vision and leadership and cultural. Like, even people on our team, I think they're so talented. I'm not, I'm not blind to the fact that they could probably get a job somewhere else. But I think what keeps them around, hopefully, is
Yeah.
that they're constantly challenged. They're constantly being put into new positions of leadership. They're part of like a greater vision and a culture that's different from the typical, like, corporate culture. And then when you're at an even smaller level where it's like just you and you're trying to figure out, I literally can't hire like anyone. I
Yeah.
think, I
Yeah.
think again, like, don't be afraid to look at talent in different countries. And like, we have a few, like 5 employees from Ukraine, and now post-war, they're kind of scattered around Europe, but they are like the smartest, best people. I never knew anyone from Ukraine before we hired them, and now they're some of my closest friends too because they've worked with us since the beginning of SeedX. But I think also don't think about, like, if you hire someone in a different country who can accept a lower wage because that's just the cost of living there. That doesn't mean they always stay at that wage, but don't think of it as outsourcing. Like, that person's on your team, they're just in a different country.
I
So
love that.
I
Yeah.
think, like, also don't be afraid to, like, know that you can create a genuine team that's not just full of American people. I don't know
Yeah.
why that drives me crazy.
It's really cool because actually, I think a lot of us, I mean, I'll speak for myself. A lot of times we think about, like, oh, if I get a virtual assistant in another country. Well, first of all, like, my fear is one time we were scammed. One time we were scammed by a social media person that was not the case. But I mean, I think that was pretty obvious. And I would not have made that choice for that one. It was for like a side hobby anyways. It wasn't for the business. But also the fact is, like, I think so often when we think of, getting a virtual assistant per se outside of the country or a social media assistant or whatever the case is, I think sometimes we think of them as just like you said, like a temporary hire. We don't really like
Is
want to pour into them and like grow their leadership as well as, like I think we do if they were here in the United States or sitting across the table. It's like we often think about that. So I like that concept of like pour into them, grow them as leaders is kind of I think what I'm hearing from you, right? Like develop them in their skill set and have them grow within your company.
and vice versa. They can develop you. Like they're just because like again, income is different universally, right? They might actually be ahead of you. And
Wow.
just maybe your salary is more, in their country, whatever, right? So I
Yeah.
think like just don't think of it as like one time a potential client said my assistant wasn't real because she was in Pakistan. And I was just like, okay, we can't work together
Hmm.
because people in different countries are real.
It's a great perspective, and I think a lot of us have that misperception, right? That it's not you can't pour into them, you can't develop them, or they can't develop you. Like you just said,
Yeah.
that's really cool. That they're actually probably have many years of experience over you. So that's really really cool. What two quick pieces of advice do you have when it comes to building a brand through engagement?
Uh, don't be afraid to be imperfect and iterate. And, like, it's just, like, trying different things, different messaging, different content, whatever it is, and don't be afraid, like, sometimes we have clients who they're really afraid that if they put out one ad or one social piece of content and it's not exactly what they want their brand to look like, that it's going to tarnish them, and then it ends up performing the best. So don't be afraid to experiment and remember like just because you love something doesn't mean customers will because at the end of the day you're answering to customers. Um and then I guess to go along with that, I think it's really hard to grow anywhere. I think you have to be really genuine and have something unique, whether it's like you are you because you're a unique person or genuine, or your product, you have to really like explain why it's different. So don't be afraid to be like different and real, and everything else is just kind of like a tactic, but iterating and having really good, like, genuine content is how you get engagement.
And Jacqueline, where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they, if they want to work with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. So our website is SeedX, like a plant seed, x.us. And then I'm happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn and talk about business or potentially working together, whatever people would want to discuss. And it's just under my name, Jacqueline.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jacqueline. This conversation's been so great. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I'm just so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.